Hi there, Counselor Raven. Can you just confirm you're able to hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
We certainly can. Thank you very much.
No worries.
All good, Mr. Schroeder? Okay. Welcome, everyone. I am going to call us to order. It is 6:30. And I'm going to start. Okay. Use my voice. Okay, we're good now? That was funny. I was wondering who was talking and it was me. Okay, let's do that again. I see you laughing, Councillor Raven. Okay. The town of Smithers acknowledges the Gidim Den clan and the Wet'suwet'en people on whose unceded traditional territory we live, work, and play. And the public is notified that the meeting is being recorded and webcast, a notice of which is on the door or the bulletin board outside these chambers. Council, there's an agenda, no supplemental. Motion to approve, please. Councillor Buikema, Councillor Ray, thank you. All in favor? Any opposed? And that's carried. All right, we have a couple of delegations. Our first one is joining us virtually, I believe. Do we have the delegation? I thought I saw them in there.
Yes, Mayor, I believe we do. They'll just have to pop themselves up on Zoom.
Ms. Emery, are you there?
Yep, I'm here.
There we go. Perfect. I see you now. Okay, welcome. We've got you and I could hear you, so that's great. So you probably know, but just our practice, our general practice for delegations is you've got kind of 5 to 10 minutes for your presentation, then a few minutes for questions, and we try to keep it all within about 15. So thanks for joining us, and I'll hand it over to you.
Perfect. Thank you for having me. My name is Marley Emery. I am a nurse here in Terrace. I work in the emergency room and in the labor room. I have been a nurse for 12 years. I also am the lobby coordinator with the BC Nurses Union, which covers the entire Northwest. I'm here today to just provide some information around how to ensure high quality healthcare for everyone in BC. I want to start off by just acknowledging that I'm gathered here on the ancestral territory of the Tsimshian people. And my main focus today is actually very simple. I want to make sure that everyone in BC has access to high quality healthcare when they need it. I can confidently say that we all share this goal and that the healthcare system is falling short far too often. What this entails and what it requires is two things, specifically addressing the severe nursing shortage that is burning nurses out, working our system, and restricting timely access to healthcare. And we also need to attract and retain more nurses into our healthcare system. This is addressing the staffing crisis that is seriously impacting yourselves, your neighbors, your friends, your family, your constituents. And as a union, we are laser focused on improving the working conditions for Spectrum employers, a safer workplace. These are the things that are going to attract and keep the nurses that we do have. Focusing on what quality healthcare requires here. It has to be a priority for everyone. And I believe that even the public sees it now too, especially after people being within hospitals and not receiving some of the care that they require. It is more than ever in the public eye just how bad healthcare has gotten. And so focusing on like some of the benefits for Smithers and retaining and recruiting nurses, it's not just the serious benefits within the healthcare system and receiving that higher quality of care, but it's also going to benefit your community by bringing more young professionals in, living in the community, raising families, fewer service interruptions and ER closures, better care for everyone as well. How can we do this? How can local government play a part? Local government actually plays a part by using policy levers that make communities more attractive to nurses. We do know that nearly half the nurses in BC right now are under the age of 40. 90% of them are female. And working towards having great childcare and local resources that can help protect and promote that work-life balance is going to be essential. We've heard it from so many of the nurses on different surveys that those are the things that are really holding them back from being able to work. I know specifically over 10, 20, 30 professionals that I work with that are unable to even work 12-hour shifts in the hospital because childcare just does not provide for 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. up until the wee hours of the night. In our campaign, we have a campaign that we started, Ratios Save Lives. You can go to ratios.savelives.ca. So I'm going to explain to you the solution that they have come up with, and this is called the minimum nurse to patient ratios. The BC government and the nurses union have already begun implementing these. There's just so much more work that's left to be done, and full implementation will only be possible if we have everyone on board. I'm going to explain to you why it is quite important and why we need your support in making this a success. So starting off with why. This potential solution is great because we are a member-driven organization. Our members asked for this. We have been surveying our nurses for years, and every time we survey our nurses, they're either burnt out, they have way too many patients to even provide the care that they ethically and physically want to provide for them. And on our last survey, 84% of them said that it would be mandatory to have these minimum nurse-patient ratios. It's a must-have. Some of the things we've tried before, we tried bargaining things into our collective agreement, we tried fining the employer when they didn't meet staffing targets. That were deemed the correct targets for the safest care. It just wasn't effective. We don't need fines, we need nurses. And so what we've done is we've looked to other jurisdictions, and in specifically California and Australia. These two places were able to study ratios and determine what the exact safe patient care ratio was. And what they did was when they put these into effect, they created more lines, they made safer staffing within their facilities, and they had 7,000 inactive nurses return to work that had previously quit the job. These are fully trained, fully capable nurses that are coming back. And so this great success truly made us want to kind of take exactly what they've done and make it possible for BC. So that is what we are doing. 7,000 inactive nurses came back in Australia. California had 60% increase in nurse registrations. There was decreases everywhere in vacancies, positions were being filled. 67% said they were more likely to stay in their jobs because of ratios, where right now we have nurses that are on the verge of quitting every day because of the workload. Nurses say that increased quality of care increases because of the ratios. There was fewer nurse injuries, work safe events. These are all trackable numbers, and they've seen them all decrease in these two specific places that have implemented the ratios. Additional patient to nurse ratios represented a 12 to 16% increase in the risk of a 30-day mortality. So we are saving people. We have lower readmission rates, lengths of stay, fewer errors. There are just beyond amounts of benefits for everyone. Some of the other things we've noticed, it just is safer care. Like it's just safer care. And the fact that we've been able to really research this with the help of the government providing funding for this, because they also recognize that we're struggling and that this is a priority, is incredible. We are paving the way for the rest of Canada. The other provinces are looking at us. They are with us. They are acting with us. They are researching and seeing things, and we're going to be the first to really pave the way for the rest of Canada. There is I believe in the package there is a ratios chart, and it shows you kind of an overview. So we're starting to go into stage 2. Stage 1 is where we've researched and found the safest care ratio. So the one that we often reference is medical surgical, because that's one of our biggest floors and our emergency department. On the top there, you'll see it's 1 to 4. That means 1 nurse to 4 patients. So then all of the different types of unit types to ratios is explained below. Labor and delivery is 1 to 1 for active births. Emergency should be 1 to 3 for acute, 1 to 4 for fast track, 1 to 1 critical care type trauma thing. So these are things that the BC Nurses Union has played a role with the Ministry of Health and health authorities in determining these. And all of the health authorities have been provided the same information. They are all supposed to be achieving these numbers, all of BC. It is pretty amazing that the provincial government stepped up and did commit 300 million in funding for this. It has been spread across multiple initiatives to try and retain and recruit. Some of the things that have been done is we have been putting out like $30,000 in trying to like have people come and work in these rural and remote communities. But the problem is that people are leaving. They're coming, they're working, and then they're just leaving. And this is what's going to make them stay. The staying is the hard part. And so a lot of these issues can all be fixed with ratios. One of the cool things is that Smithers was actually one of our pilot projects. Smithers was one of the first of 4 to get these ratios as implemented. So they came through, they've changed all the ratios within the hospital, and your hospital actually saw quite a significant intake in nurses, and a good amount of the vacancies were filled. They created new positions. Those vacancies also got filled. One of the biggest concerns is, are we taking nurses away from other places? And the answer is no. People are just returning to where they wanted to work initially, to do the things that they wanted to do, but to do them safely. These are still nurses within your community, and probably some that came from others that were pretty excited about it. And so this kind of brings me just back to the slide of housing and childcare and transportation and recreation, and just really informing the public and informing everyone here. And hopefully there's a lot of people watching that are getting a little bit of insight into what we're doing. And we're just really encouraging everyone to ask their local health authorities, like, where are we at? How is our hospital doing? How can we make this better? And just keeping in mind things that, like, for healthcare, childcare is really difficult. And when opening new facilities or looking at 24-hour facilities or things that we might be able to do, these are things that would greatly help your community out, because you already have a wonderful community. We love Smithers. And I believe that kind of takes me to the end of my presentation, other than just in 5 seconds, just to say that if you ever have any questions or you're doing anything healthcare related, like, feel free to reach out to any nurses ever, because we love to contribute and we love to let you know where everything is at.
Thanks, Marlee. I can feel your enthusiasm. So even though this is virtual, we're feeling your energy for this subject. So thank you for that.
Wonderful.
And I'll just look to the table if anyone has questions for you. And I'm just going to let you know, Councillor Raven, I can't see you. Oh, I think that's your hand. Councillor Raven.
Perfect. I figured out technology. Look at me go. No, so thank you so much for the presentation. I was recently actually flying from Vancouver to Smithers, and I was seated beside one of our local doctors, and we had a fantastic chat because I asked them, I said, so how are things going at the hospital? And they were able to give me some of the stats about the nurses. One thing that I'm curious about is if BCNU or nurses ever provide like letters of support. So like Smithers applied to get a childcare facility, and unfortunately we were not successful. So I was just wondering if maybe that's something that's happened in the past, or if it's not, if it's something that might happen in the future.
Letters of support. That's definitely not my area of expertise, but that is something that I would absolutely love to ask, because I know that nurses are really great at writing letters and advocating for their patients and for themselves. And yeah, we would love to do that, to direct that. And where would you like that directed if we were able to get nurses to sign and write these letters?
I wasn't thinking about anything in particular. It's just if we are going to do another application, just,
Yeah.
you know, we might be looking for a bit of a broader push, but yeah, no, it was just something that I kind of thought about, but thank you.
That would be wonderful. Please do reach out. We have Terry Forster is your local chair for our whole Northwest, as well as multiple stewards in the work site. So if you're ever looking for anyone, Terry Forster or myself is great. Reach out to us, and we would love to help you with that and get some local letters from nurses and from the BC Nurses Union to help really create that leverage and get that support.
Thanks, Councillor Raven. Anyone else around the table? Okay, I'm going to thank you. I'm not seeing any other hands. And you're probably aware, but every community has a seat as well on the Northwest Regional Hospital District Board. So we do hear things as well back. So I hold that seat for our council. So we do hear things back from Northern Health and within our sub-regions, if you will, on how the recruitment and retention is going. So we do get that perspective. So it's nice as well to hear from you at this table. So thanks for making time and sending us the presentation. And we do have the contact for you and for Terry in the materials you shared. So thanks very much.
Thank you for your time. Thank you.
Okay. I hope you enjoy the rest of your evening. Okay. So where we're at, delegation number 2. We have folks in the back, so Jocelyn, I welcome you up. You know the drill, so thank you for joining us.
Great. Good evening. My name is Constable Jocelyn Feutert, and I serve as both a police officer and a registered social worker embedded within the Smithers RCMP detachment. I wear several hats in the detachment, which many of you already know, including co-chairing the Smithers Situation Table. So tonight I'm here to share what we've seen this year at the table, what's working, what's changing, and the emerging risks that we're seeing across the community. So before I begin, I want to acknowledge that Dr. Chad Nilsson is here in the gallery tonight. Dr. Nilsson is Canada's leading expert on situation tables and the community safety wellbeing model. He has supported more than 100 communities across the country, and he is with us this week, completing a fidelity assessment for our table. Today, he provided us with a workshop and a check-in session to help kind of re-energize, refocus our team. So we're incredibly fortunate to have his guidance in Smithers right now. As many of you know, the Situation Table is a multi-agency team. We come together once a week and respond collaboratively when someone is experiencing acutely elevated risk, meaning their likelihood of harm is rising quickly and no single agency can manage that individual or family alone. So this year, we continue to see strong partnerships across the board. I want to highlight the Town of Smithers Community Safety Officer, now joining me in helping to co-chair our table. As well, securing a consistent meeting space has also been really challenging in the past. So having a dedicated room in the new community safety building each week will actually make a huge and significant difference to our team. Whitsett First Nation School District, Northern Society for Domestic Peace, the Zelkamp Friendship Center, Northern Health, First Nations Health Authority, the Social Development Poverty Reduction, Smithers Community Services, and now the Bulkley Valley Harm Reduction Society are all active partners at our table. Our partnership, particularly with the anti-violence sector, Northern Society for Domestic Peace, remains the strongest across the region and has been essential as the complexity of situations continues to increase for us at the table. So in response to that complexity, the Smithers RCMP detachment obtained provincial C-STEP funding, which has allowed us to expand our proactive approach to referrals we receive at the situation table. So that means we've been able to check in on women in unsafe situations, people struggling with mental health and substance use, or individuals who've fallen out of services. And many of these contacts have stabilized situations before they've reached a point of crisis, hospitalization, or police enforcement. What makes our approach in Smithers really unique is the framework we're using outside of the table. So as many of you know, my dual role as a police officer and a registered social worker is not something any other detachment in the province has. It has allowed us to bridge enforcement, crisis response, trauma-informed practice, and social service delivery systems all at one time. This year, other detachments across the province had reached out to learn from me from this framework, and I've been invited to present to several communities as well as the BC Human Rights Commissioner. So Smithers is being looked at as the leader in crime prevention. So our local data helps show us why this is really important. As of November 17th, our RCMP crime analyst pulled some updated statistics. So we've had 299 check well-being calls this year, which is similar to last year, which shows the steady pressure on police to respond to health and social related concerns rather than crime. We've had 61 mental health apprehensions this year, which is a 69% increase from last year. So these are time-intensive calls that involve both police and hospital staff. And we've had 32 sexual violence offenses, which is an 88% increase from last year. So I just want to take a moment to explain what that increase in sexual offenses means from my perspective. So a rise in reporting does not always mean that more incidents are occurring. Very often it reflects that women feel safe coming forward, and that safety is a result of very, very intentional work between the detachment and Northern Society for Domestic Peace and Victim Services. So a significant amount of time this year has been spent on doing outreach, explaining reporting processes, supporting women before they make a decision to report, and creating trauma-informed spaces within the detachment where women feel safe to disclose. So police interviews are often done in plain clothes with support people in place from other agencies from the situation table, and often only after we We've met the survivor and built rapport and trust. So with that, we've also completed the new interagency case assessment team training this year with several of our situation table partners. And that training is utilized for the highest risk domestic violence files, especially those involving concerns with lethality, coercive control, and a history of strangulation. So with that training, we've been able to respond collaboratively and very quickly to very dangerous situations this year. None of this work would be possible without victim services that you heard from last week. They have been absolutely integral in helping us to build this relationship and trust where survivors are supported throughout this entire process. So while the increase in sexual offenses might look alarming on paper, what we're actually seeing is that survivors are more willing to disclose and that the coordinated model we've built within the detachment is working as intended. Across the table, the majority of our referrals to the situation table continue to be driven by health-related complex mental health and addictions issues. So we all know these are not criminal issues, they're health and social issues, but the situation table allows us to respond collaboratively rather than in silos. The lack of a low barrier shelter has consistently pushed people into unsafe relationships, unsafe accommodations, and survival behaviors that result in police or hospital use. The absence of a warm place, especially in the winter, has put significant pressure on police and the emergency room in the past. Having a low barrier shelter option this winter fills a critical gap that should lead to more stabilization and few overnight crises. I want to acknowledge that while housing has been a major priority in Smithers, we saw an important shift this year with the new supportive housing units opening up in Burns Lake. So their team engaged directly with our situation table partners, and we've been able to house several people who are originally from Burns Lake, but were living unhoused here in Smithers. So in some cases, we've been able to reconnect people with home. In other cases, people simply cannot take those units in their home because their health and addiction needs make it so they can't leave Smithers. So many people who end up in Smithers unhoused are coming from neighboring communities like Burns Lake, Hazelton, and Houston, because the mental health and addiction support capacity in those communities is more limited than it is in Smithers. So when people can't access care where they're from, they gravitate to the closest community with services, and for many, that's Smithers. So from a systems perspective, moving forward, I see the need for stronger collaboration across municipalities so people can safely remain in or return to their home communities. I am incredibly grateful for our phenomenal nurses here in Smithers who've done some pretty groundbreaking work with me in the community, bringing care to people and breaking down barriers. As we look forward, many of the pressures I feel like we're experiencing in Smithers stem from gaps that reach well beyond our own community. When neighboring communities don't have the capacity or the resources they need, those pressures naturally flow into Smithers and onto our local systems. So what I'm hoping to do this year is to begin addressing those broader challenges. I'm currently working on a provincial grant that I'm hoping will help strengthen some regional collaboration and just build a more coordinated approach across these 3 municipalities. And of course, I'm really hoping that Dr. Nilsson can support me in this process. He reminded us today that we need to prioritize prevention just as much as we prioritize crisis work. So that's my goal for next year. Lastly, I want to thank Mayor and Council for your continued support for me personally and professionally. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Jocelyn. You also have the energy that is uplifting, so thank you for that. I'll just look to the table if there's questions for Jocelyn. Constable Foydart, I'm sorry, I'm being very informal.
That's fine.
Any comments or questions? Councillor Patterson and then Councillor Raven.
Thank you, Your Worship. So good to see you. I went from missing you to seeing you back to back. So just want to say, looking forward to your request for a letter of support from the town for your grant, if one should want such letter. And actually just looking forward to the presentation that we'll be receiving at our community safety and wellbeing group. And actually just to maybe request that we could chat later in hopes that maybe Dr. Nielsen could be invited to our group as well. And then, yeah, just any other ongoing recommendations that you might find based on the data and the work that you're doing. That group has expressed time and time again that we're super keen to learn from what you have to share. So thank you so much.
We are in Witset for the next 2 days, Dr. Nielsen and myself. So unfortunately, we can't make that Thursday meeting because we're doing training for intervention support circle. But I do know that I am going to rope him in some way, shape, or form to continuing to support this community. I just have to figure out how I'm going to do it.
I just want to point out he can hear you.
Oh, yeah.
Councillor Raven.
I was going to say, I didn't think that letter of support included rope. Maybe I have to reread it. No, so Jocelyn, I just want to say thank you so much. I've gone to a few different trainings across the province, and anytime situation tables come up, I always stick my hand up and say Smithers has a fantastic one. And then the response is always, oh, we know Jocelyn. So thank you so much for your work. You spoke about our low barrier warming shelter, and I was just wondering if you actually would go a little bit deeper into that as to why a low barrier shelter is more accessible than, say, a dry shelter.
Mhm. Yeah, for sure. I think the low barrier shelter option has been for the 3 years of the situation table been flagged as a barrier to people, being able to access any kind of support. So oftentimes it starts with being able to access, that really low barrier support. Relationship is really important in order to have people consent to services or consent to, want to think about living in a different way. And oftentimes that is built, on the ground in the trenches where people and meeting people where they're at. When people are cold, and they're not well, we see them, having to, break into places to stay warm. We see them, having to stay in the ER and taking up a bed because they can't be discharged into, minus 20-degree weather. So I see this warming shelter that we have operating now filling a critical gap that we've had in the past. And just, not to get off topic, but we've had no issues since it's opened. There's been no calls for service about it. I know that it's, something that we've talked about at length within community. And so far it's being managed and operated very well. And the relationships that are being built right now at the warming shelter, I'm already seeing somebody as of today thinking about accessing treatment services because they feel cared for and welcomed at the warming shelter. And that relationship is being built with staff there who are then able to bring in other situation table partners, pass that trust along, and begin a conversation. So, hopefully that answers your question.
No, that was awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Councillor Raven. Any others at the table? Maybe, I'm just gonna put some of the community concerns that you will have heard, but that might be helpful based on what, this council's been going through the last couple of weeks with the social concerns. And so I think what you have described well are the pluses of a low barrier shelter and the benefit to the people who need it. And I wonder, with your police hat on as well, you can describe ways that as a community, we can help make the rest of the community comfortable because there is an angst spreading. And I think you and your members know some of the challenges that other folks in the community are living with now, people who are, who have been physically hurt, mentally hurt as a result of some of the safety challenges. And, maybe speak to that a little bit. And that's not your situation table job. And if you don't want to answer it, you don't have to. But I think it's part of the challenge we're facing as a community, that the hurt spreads as well to others who might be regarded as healthy and happy and housed, but some of them aren't anymore.
Yeah, I mean, these are all really good points. I think if I put my police hat on, we don't police homelessness and we don't police housing issues. And those are issues that continuously come up for us. What we know at the police level is that when people are housed, when people are warm, when people are fed, they don't fall into committing crimes. When you address those root causes of crime, which is not having housing, not having food, poverty, social determinants of health, all of those things, we see that being, an incredible crime preventative approach addressing those root causes of crime. Having a low barrier shelter where someone can be warm and fed and the relationship can be cared for, we have seen traditionally across municipalities and across BC to be something that actually decreases crime.
And maybe I'll push just a little bit for
Fair.
one more thought on this, you know, and you talked about the reasons why people in our small region may choose to come to Smithers, that there are some services, and it's nice to hear about the housing in Burns Lake, enabling people to go to their home community. But if there are services here and gaps in other places, and the crisis seems to worsen, the question we get asked is, you know, if you build it, they will come. And so if we work with BC Housing to build a supportive housing and the shelter that we hope will come, will that be enough, or will that simply be a further attraction? How do we have this community conversation that provides, you know, some sense of peace to residents and business owners as well?
Yeah, I don't think you're wrong. Like, I think that what we've seen in Smithers is, you know, because we've worked really hard, you know, across sectors to increase our structural capacity of what's in our community, that we are seeing people from Burns Lake and from Hazleton and from Houston coming to Smithers to access those supports. I have flagged that in my own mind as, you know, a really big challenge for the table and for myself moving forward, which is why I think it's important to have conversations with other municipalities about the importance of building their own capacity and having their own housing and their own situation tables. And, you know, so that people who are from their community can stay there or remain there, or if they come here and they end up unhoused, that we can get them home. I think that is, you know, as I look forward, a big issue that we're going to have. I would love to see other municipalities, you know, have like more robust services like we've had in Smithers. And I'm seeing people gravitate here specifically for those. And then also too, not being able to leave or get back home because the services that we have here don't exist in their municipality. And that puts a lot of strain on our systems, our social services, our nurses, doctors, police officers. And so how can we help these other municipalities build more resources for their communities so that they can have more capacity to support folks that are from their community rather than gravitating to Smithers?
Thank you. I
You're
really
welcome.
appreciate that. It helps me in my own thinking as
Mhm.
well, since those are the questions that we get fairly frequently.
Yeah.
But I do want to end my comments by one more time saying thank you for the service that you provide to our community. We are so much better off for it. I echo Councillor Raven when I was recently at a panel as well at ABCM. And when I think about the things that happen well here, I talk about the situation table and the contribution it makes to helping people one at a time. I do know that one at a time actually matters. So thank you. Thanks for coming and for bringing the folks in the back of the gallery that are here with you. It's a pleasure to see you here again, and I wish you the best in your training. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, council, we're gonna, and you can always stay and watch our whole meeting. I know how much you love that. Or not, I suppose. Thanks. Okay, council, we're back to our agenda. So where we're at actually now is the public comment period. So if there's anyone in the gallery who wants to speak to something on our agenda, this is the moment. Okay, not seeing anyone, so I'm going to move on. We don't have a public hearing. And I'll just offer to the table the regrets of Councillor Buikema. He had to leave. So what we have is the council remaining at this table and Councillor Raven on Zoom. Phew. Okay. We are at the minutes. So 8-1, the regular from October 28th for approval, please. Councillor Leonard. Seconder, Councillor Ray, thank you. All in favor? Any opposed? And that's carried. And the special open November 12th for approval, please. Councillor Leonard, thank you. Councillor Ray, any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? And that's carried. Committee of the Whole, October 27th. for approval. Counselor Leonard, thank you. Counselor Patterson, thank you. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? And that's carried. And items released to the public, Mr. Schroeder.
Thank you very much, Mayor Attrell. During this evening's closed meeting, council made 4 appointments to the Advisory Planning Commission. Laura Lynn Svizdal and Aurora Lavender were appointed for 3-year terms beginning December 31st, 2025, expiring December 31st, 2028. And 2-year appointments for Daniel Mezek and Laura Bolster, beginning December 31st, 2025, and expiring December 31st, 2027.
Thanks. And thanks to all who submitted interest, and congratulations to those who will be joining us at the Advisory Planning Commission. Okay, we are at business arising from item 10. Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, Your Worship. Is it appropriate for me to ask questions now specific to the meeting minutes of October 28th, 2025?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay, thank you. Just a question through to Mr. Lawrence, if I may. I really enjoyed seeing all the new lighting that we had talked about under the seasonal decoration upgrades. So 14.4 or on page 31 of 325 for folks in the room are listening. Just a quick question, and I apologize if this is silly. The 2 large banners, they are quite bright compared to some of the others. And I just wonder, again, I'm sorry if this is silly, I'm laughing as I'm saying it. Is it possible to adjust the brightness of those particular banners? I just find that Main Street has this quite sort of beautiful, quaint vibe that comes at this time of the season. And I find those 2 just stand out significantly.
Mr. Lawrence.
Through the mayor to Councillor Patterson, there is no dimmer switches or anything on those particular items or the pole mounted ones either. So apologies.
That's okay. And I'm so sorry. I know it seems very silly. I just, when I saw them, I was a bit shocked at first because I think I had imagined in my mind some of the secondary ones that we had installed. So I guess it'll just take some getting used to. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Patterson. Councillor Raven.
I think our Main Street's going to just be guiding Santa's sleigh this entire season with how bright it is. I had a question about the lights as well. I had a few people ask me what happened to the old lights.
Through the mayor to Councillor Raven, we have not disposed of those lights as of yet, and they are currently at the works yard.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Okay. Councillor Ray.
I just wanted to comment. I know they seem bright, but I think once future years go by and we add to the collection, that they won't stand out as much. Right now they do dominate a bit, but I think they're a positive addition to Main Street.
Yeah, thanks. I wasn't going to say anything, but I can't help it. I already sent a note to Mr. Lawrence. I'm getting positive feedback, and I wanted to thank Mr. Lawrence for giving me an opportunity to get positive feedback. It's really great, and I'm happy to pass it on. I was downtown today when the lights weren't on, but the feedback that I had from the folks that I spoke to, like it's bright as people get toward the Christmas shopping period and when they're looking to have that kind of activity. I mean, I'm the last person to comment on aesthetics, but I am so grateful that what we're getting is really positive feedback, and I'm hoping, I know you will share it with the folks down there. And when they fade, then those of us who like them bright will start calling you again. That's the way it goes. And no disrespect, Councillor Patterson. It's just we're going to have lots of perspectives on those things as we go forward with the aesthetics downtown. Okay, we are into councillor reports. We'll just see that we've got Councillor Buchanan's report there and receive it as he's not here to discuss it. And the same with the library report. I guess if there were questions, maybe staff know them, but otherwise I'm just going to go by them. And I'm going to stop at Councillor Leonard, who has the Minerals North minutes.
Yeah, there's, we had a meeting on November 4th, and so the minutes are there for council's information. Things are moving along pretty well, so nothing really to report there. Yeah, I think I'm good. Not going to comment on anything else. Thanks.
Thanks, Counselor Leonard and Counselor Patterson.
Nothing from your worship. Thank you.
We got minutes there, don't we? Minutes from the committee?
Thank you, your worship.
You're right. I'm getting mixed up now too. They are there, but yeah, there's nothing that we need to. If there were any questions, this would be the moment, but otherwise you're right. Okay, and Counselor Raven.
So I just want to start off by saying that I am zooming in from the unceded territory of the Lekwungen speaking peoples, the Songhees and Esquimalt First Nations. So I will keep my report brief. I attended Remembrance Day on November the 11th with all of council. I believe it was the first time all of council were together, or most of council. November 17th was a public meeting on the warming shelter. The 18th was a committee of the whole getting started for finance. And then on November 20th, I went to the Men's Shed celebration. So they have some new equipment and their membership is growing. So it's just really neat to see, using their words, a group of old guys getting together and building stuff. So just really cool. They're working on benches for the Nordic Center. And then I also popped into the one-of-a-kind Christmas market at the Art Gallery, and that is up and running till December 24th. So you can fill out your shopping list there.
Thanks, Counselor Raven. Counselor Ray.
I have missed a couple of things recently. I did want to I had to go back to work, but I did want to apologize to the groups that were presenting because I did pop in for the Christmas picture, and I just wanted everybody to know that I wasn't running out on their presentations. I will be able to watch them on Zoom recorded before we have our budget discussions on them. One thing that came out of our meeting at the church is just this notion of notice of motion, which is just here for information. We'll be debating it in 2 weeks, and I had thought maybe about just moving it tonight, but seeing there's only, we're down a few, well, I think it's better to wait 2 weeks.
Thanks, Counselor Ray. Okay, my report is there. And the only things that I wanted to add is just to, in association with the public meeting on November 17th, just repeat a thank you to the folks who attended, the delegations who came, the members of Bulkley Valley Harm Reduction Society, the members from BC Housing, the residents and business owners who took time to show up, and of course to our staff. It was a big meeting put together really quickly, and that doesn't happen without a lot of effort, and the effort came from staff. So I just want to publicly say thank you. We recognize the amount of work that was for you. We might not actually recognize how much work it was, but thank you. We know it was a lot of work. And a couple of other things. Just following up, I've already talked about downtown, but just it is an opportunity in this season. We talked about it at the regional district. Every member talked about what's happening in their community, reminding folks to support our communities this season. And our businesses and not-for-profits are looking for support. And this is a time when we can extend it either by spending your dollars downtown shopping and supporting our local charities who very much need that. So it's a season of giving and celebration, and just invite you to consider shopping local and donating local this year. Okay, that's it. And we're off to the reports. First up, 14.1, which is just on the agenda, and it's from staff recommending that we direct staff to provide a report to council regarding the BC Nurses Union delegation request. However, I think it was mostly for information. Mr. Schroeder.
That's correct, Mayor. I would interpret that was only for information.
Okay, so we'll just skip that one. We're good. Unless council wants something in particular, we'll just move by. So then to 14.2, and we have a report from Ms. Smith regarding the contract amendment for Municipal Hall and Annex with a recommendation. Councillor Ray, Councillor Patterson, that's moving and seconding. Any discussion? Seeing, oh, Councillor Leonard.
Sorry. The amount just seems inappropriately high for the square footage of the building. When I think of what we're paying here versus what we're paying over there, just wondering what the square footage analysis is. I sort of feel like maybe we should have put it out to tender.
Thanks, Counselor Leonard. I don't know if we have anyone able to talk to that right now. Counselor, or Mr. Schroeder.
Thank you very much, Mayor Attrell. I don't have the square footage offhandedly. We certainly acknowledge that this is a higher cost than expected. The quirk always comes with adding additional space into existing contracts, as those will tend to come with a higher cost associated with them, as in many cases they're not bidding. Council could certainly direct staff to proceed with a request for proposal process, and we would happily ensure that occurs.
Thanks, Mr. Schroeder.
I don't know if I have support around the table because it seemed like everybody was ready to go, but if we're going to vote, I'll probably vote opposed just on that principle because it's, I find it too expensive. So if there's enough interest around the table to putting it out for RFP, then I'll make that motion.
Okay, Counselor Patterson.
Thank you, Your Worship. I always appreciate the lens that Council Leonard brings as far as making sure that we're responsibly managing resources. So I'd be interested to see what she has to say.
Okay, I don't know if there was anything you wanted to add to that, Counselor Leonard. Okay, I think the process would be if we wanted to have an RF or whatever, a request for proposals, we would vote down what's on the floor and make a different motion, but perhaps I'll look to either Councillor Ray or Councillor Raven first to see, or we can call the vote and see what happens. Councillor Ray.
So I actually think what this is highlighted is we're getting a pretty good deal at Town Hall for the size of it. I looked at the scope of work in the new building, and I can imagine trying to do it in this building. It would be a lot of work in this building. And, so the people are already on site, but they're going to have to take all their equipment over across the parking lot, everything. There's some time to that. I don't disagree with going out to tender, but I just think that perhaps we wouldn't get a better price anyway. I've done janitorial before, and if I adjust for inflation, the amount of work that's involved in this, I think it's fairly reasonable, actually.
Thanks, Councillor Ray. Councillor Raven, I saw your hand.
Just trying to find my mute button. So one question I would have, I'm not opposed to going out for tender. I'm just wondering about how long that process would take and how much work that would be for staff.
Mr. Schroeder.
Thank you, Mayor Attrell. The process, I believe we could make it fairly concise and have it last approximately a month. However, with the holiday seasons approaching, it would make some of the approvals through council a little bit awkward and extend that probably about into a month and a half. Though the turnaround time for staff resources would be fairly quick because we recently conducted a request for proposal, and it would simply be updating the dates and some of the material to reflect that it's not all of the sites, simply simply a single site.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I would support putting this out for tender.
Councillor, you just have your mic on. Sorry, I'm having one of those confusion moments just in something you said. You said that we recently did can you just say that again?
So staff put out the janitorial services at the beginning of 2025 as the contract had expired or was close to expiring. So simply it would likely be just updating dates and locations.
And just so I'm clear before we go another step, Councillor Leonard, you're suggesting putting out the new building. Okay, all right, at least I think I know what we're all talking about. Okay, pleasure of the table. Counselor Leonard.
I'll move that we,
I'm sorry, we have a motion on the floor.
sorry, do we?
No, that's okay. So I think, though, if you want to speak to intention, and then we'll call the vote on the motion. So the recommendation is on the floor. But if you wanted to speak to intention again, that's fine.
You're gonna have to help me.
Well, I just think if you wanted, I'm thinking what your expectation is if the council votes down this motion, the recommendation, then you're prepared to make another motion that we go out seeking bids on the new building.
I definitely am prepared to make that motion if this one is voted down.
Okay, just so that we're all clear on where we're going. So we have a recommendation on the floor for just adding this or amending the current contract. I haven't spoken to how I'm going to vote because I have been unsure till this very moment. I think I will support the direction of Councillor Leonard, even though there's a piece of me that likes the tidiness of being able to just let this go without any additional work. And that we have a contractor we've used for a very long time who I think has performed satisfactorily. So I might be talking myself into something else. Did I see your hand? Or you just, okay. Okay, I'm gonna have to make a decision here right now. Everyone else is ready? So to the recommendation, all in favor? I am going to vote in favor and opposed. And the motion is defeated. Councillor Leonard.
So I will move that we direct staff to issue an RFP for 3866 Railway Avenue
Just for the janitorial service?
for janitorial services.
Okay, and a seconder for that? Councillor Patterson seconds. Any discussion on this motion? Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, Worship. I just want to say I appreciate the sentiments that you made, and I think one of the reasons why, just so folks listening in can understand why I voted the way I did, is that we've received a lot of feedback from the public and how we approach our tendering processes. So again, I just want to ensure that we're being fair and transparent. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Ray.
I'm of two minds on this. Having been a former janitor and knowing how people view janitorial services and devalue them, it seems like with all the contracts we've handed out with single source and everything, it's a little bit iffy for me. I do note that actually, if you go on a yearly basis, it's under the threshold where it could be direct awarded. That being said, we defeated the last one, so I really don't have any choice but to vote to go out to tender.
Okay. So we are going to have to vote. The motion is to go to tender. Any last comments? All in favor? And that's carried unanimously. Okay. All right. We are at the first report, folks. All right. Let me get to the next one. So 14.3, report from Mr. Schroeder on the Bulkley Valley Collaborative Learning Society license of occupation at Ranger Park. Recommendation with two parts. Councillor Patterson, are you moving?
I'll move both, Your Worship, if that's
Okay.
appropriate.
Yep. And a seconder, please. Councillor Leonard seconds. Discussion? Councillor Ray.
One question, I noticed on the lease for inside the building, the occupant is required to provide $5 million worth of insurance, and they're only required to provide 2 outside. I'm trying to think of a nice way to say this without sounding too critical, but if they're unguarded structures outside, do we not actually, or is that not exposing more of a risk than inside?
Mr. Schroeder.
Thank you, Mayor Atchell. Just to confirm to the question, Councillor, the question is the contents of the shed or greenhouse that belonging to the Bulkley Valley Collaborative Learning Society? Yeah, so that won't be super locked or anything. Anybody could break in and injure themselves. I'm just wondering why the difference? The Town of Smithers would not be responsible for any lost or damaged property on the site. That's the exclusive liability responsibility of the Bulkley Valley Collaborative Learning Society. Whatever they decide to put in unlocked or unsafe locations and is damaged or lost is their problem essentially. With respect to the broader question of liability, the $2 million liability is standard for other licenses of occupation, and it would be certainly understandable to require a higher level of insurance for this group, as they are required to have a higher level of insurance for their main lease. However, the activities taking place in the license of occupation area are considered low risk, whereas the broader activities taking place on the inside of the building, as it is a childcare or rather a school, it does have access to a higher level of insurance the town is able to access as a additional insured.
Thank you for that. And then just the second, and I really hadn't thought of this before, but and it isn't meant as a criticism, it's just kind of pointing out the difference between the last item and this item. We're giving somebody, I know it's non-exclusive use, but they're able to do it for $1 a year.
Thanks, Councillor Ray. Any other questions or comments? My only comment, and it's just really a comment, that as our town-owned properties become under greater demand, it just makes me aware that at some point we are likely to need our properties as our services grow. So it's just something that's occurring to me. It doesn't actually affect what's in front of me, but just as a constant watchful eye now, considering what happened with us with the Creation Station, now the Community Safety Office, that space is becoming precious. Okay, Councillor Ray.
Just so I didn't want to, I am in support. And a lot of what they're doing in this license of occupation, aside from maybe the greenhouse, there is already stuff outside, so.
Okay, thanks for that. Are you ready? Both recommendations are on the floor, both points. All in favor? Any opposed? And that is carried unanimously. 14.4, report from Ms. Goodrick on the Sparrows Christian Housing Society requesting a letter of support with a recommendation. Councillor Leonard moves. Councillor Patterson seconds. Councillor Ray.
I was just wondering what the letter of support was actually for. In the past, council really hasn't had a practice of issuing blanket letters of support. Not that I don't support the project, but yeah.
We're all looking now. Mr. Shorter, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Atchell. If I understand correctly, the proposal would be for phase 2 of supported housing. In this context, I believe that it would likely be for the BC housing application processes for different types of housing, though certainly they're not specific of the specific type or specific grant opportunity that they're looking at.
Do you want to just respond that it's not our practice and we would like to know what we're specifically, like, I think I'm sensing that we're supportive of it. I see you, Councillor Ray, but I'm going to finish with Councillor Ray and then I'll come to you. So just so we've got clarity.
I'm always that guy, so I'm going to hear what other people have to say first.
I think I'm that guy too. Councillor Raven.
So they had referenced their website. So the project details on their website is 4 new fully accessible units for adults with diverse abilities, specialized supports, and accessible. So, I mean, if we want to be as specific as supporting their project as laid out on their website as of this date, I would support that. It's a 3,200 square foot building.
Thanks, Council Raven. I think in the past, it's been more that the letter of support is to a particular application for a certain funding pot, not necessarily the description of the building. Mr. Schroeder, and then I see you, Councillor Leonard.
Perhaps as an easy way forward, council could direct staff to provide additional information on this request for a letter of support.
Councillor Leonard.
Yeah, I was just gonna agree with Councillor Ray that we usually do support for a specific grant or certain funding, and it isn't anywhere in the package. I just assumed that that's what it was for, so appreciate the question.
Yeah, and I'm very happy to support the project as well, but I think in keeping with practice, it usually is to a specific grant funder for certain money. So I think that's fair. And yeah, so how about got the motion on the floor? Councillor Ray.
I'll move that we postpone this item until such time as staff can provide further information on the specific grant application.
Thanks. Seconder? Councillor Patterson seconds. Thank you. Any comments or questions on, oh no, we can't. Never mind. We can't discuss this one. It's a postponement. It's an interrupting motion, so we're just going to vote on it. All in favor? Any opposed? And that's carried. Thanks. We're good. Thanks for that, Councillor Ray. Okay, 14.5, letter of support. Request from Ms. Goodrick. This is for Hope Care. Yeah, I'm reading it to see if I've made the same mistake. Councillor Ray.
So in this case, well, it's not a specific grant. They do mention that they advocate for funds from the provincial government. So I think in this case, we know what they're going to do with the letter.
Yeah, I see the sample letter here to the health minister, so I can support that. I mean, Hope Care supports folks in our community, so. Thanks, Councillor Patterson, and a seconder, Councillor Ray. Any discussion? All in favor? That's carried unanimously. Okay, and 14.6, letter of support from Simba Smithers Mountain Bike Association. Councillor Ray, Councillor Patterson. Any discussion on this one? All in favor? Any opposed? And that's carried. Okay. And Councillor Ray, I'm going to accuse myself and ask you to take the chair. We're talking about something that involves Tourism Smithers, and the company I work for has a contract with Tourism Smithers.
Sorry, council, I'm just taking this chair because last time I missed people in my peripheral vision. So we have a report from Ms. Barrowman that we award the visitor information center contract to Tourism Smithers. Council, any questions first? Anybody want to put it on the floor for discussion? I see Councillor Leonard and then Councillor Raven.
But it's more of a question, I guess, and I don't know if the motion should be on the floor before I ask it, but just sort of questioning, like basically the valuation or the evaluation has them in a dead heat, but we're recommending the higher price. And I mean, it's Tourism Smithers, so I understand the bucket that it makes more sense. But there is a good argument for the BV Museum to be awarded the contract too. So because they're there. So I'm just kind of curious around why we would enter into a contract that's $20,000 more.
Through to Mr. Dewar.
Yeah, just speaking to the evaluation process, there was matrix to evaluate, based on the cost effectiveness or the price of the contract. And certainly the lower priced proposal scored significantly higher there as well as some other areas. So that's where, when we looked at the overall ranking, we did identify that, the recommended proponent scored higher and also had a lot of validity in terms of why staff would select that as the preferred candidate.
Any follow-up?
I'm good for now. See what everybody else has to say.
Councillor Raven?
I am really struggling with this one. Because the scoring was so close, but it's a $20,000 difference. I do think that has some reason to pause, because that adds up over time, and we are supposed to be very, very careful with taxpayer money. Because the other thing that I also look at is if I look at the estimation of the town running the visitor info center for an extra $5,000 more, then you start going like, well, is it maybe just worth the 5,000, and then we have complete control. I that's not my first go-to, but I had to say that I did think about it. So as it stands, I do have to say, like, I am leaning towards the Bulkley Valley Museum based on the money, and also the fact that it was said that they were both very strong submissions. Like for a 1 point difference to be that difference in price it's making me think.
Councillor Patterson?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Ray. So I just want to start by saying that I respect that staff obviously followed due process in this competition. So I just want to ask some questions with deep respect. So what I'm not super comfortable with is that 0.5% increase based on the additional fee for service. And I'm just curious if staff could just comment a little bit on, is that our assessment based on the previous agreement, or if that is just something that we're undertaking based on sort of projections of just general fee for service across other agreements as well.
Through to Mr. Welsh.
This project was shortlisted and ranked on scores and recommended to council in writings to award the FFSA to the proponent with the highest score. This was Tourism Smithers by 1 point, even though their fee was higher. Adding this to direct council's questions. The town will have the right to negotiate with the successful proponent over the final terms and condition of the contract in the best interest of the town and the community. The primary objective of the negotiations is to maximize the town's ability to obtain the best value based on the requirements and valuations relating to this RFP. And if agreement cannot be reached between the successful proponent and the town, the negotiations will be terminated. And similar negotiations will occur with the next ranked opponent on the list. So the award for this one is to go into negotiate with Tourism Smithers how to operate the tourism center.
Councillor Patterson?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Ray, and thank you through to Mr. Welsh. So just to be clear, the resource considerations around that 0.5% is still to be determined and would come back to council for decision. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so thank you. Just hearing that information at this time, I'll just say that I would support the recommendation as proposed. Thank you.
Councillor Leonard?
Yeah, that helped me as well. So if there's still a negotiation to be had, then I will support it as well.
So I'm never without an opinion. Part of what makes me support, because if you take the money out of the quality was higher, no offense to the museum, the big tipping thing for me was is knowing that the previous proponent had difficulty obtaining candidate grants for student employment. And in this report, Tourism Smithers has a backup plan that they're going to fund, whereas the museum does not, leaving it likely that if the grant was unsuccessful, that we would be in the same position where the proponent was needing more money from the town of Smithers. Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Ray. Just one last comment that I forgot was just around the municipal and regional district tax. Just the comment around the related strategic planning that will happen or is proposed to happen. I just want to say that I'd be interested in ensuring that we're transparent and engage with the public on as much as we can and how that is managed. Just given that we had a significant amount of interest in that particular piece. So I'd just be curious if staff could comment on how that process might work going into these negotiations, should this pass.
Through to Mr. Dewar.
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Do not be sorry. It was a very tricky question. Just recognizing that we had some interest from the community on specifically that municipal and regional district tax funding model. And we recognize that we say that part of the negotiation would be strategic planning around those services. So I was just curious if there'd be an opportunity for us to be able to engage with the community on that process.
We would not engage with the community on MRDT funding unless council directs otherwise prior to awarding this contract. That's something that I believe staff looks at as a longer process as we continue to move forward and grow and evolve our tourism services.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming that's just recognizing that the province essentially manages how that process goes. Is that correct?
Well, essentially for MRDT funding, it's a tax that's collected from our hotels and local accommodation providers. That money does flow to the province and then it flows through us. Right now, we've identified Tourism Smithers as the nonprofit organizations, which ultimately receives that funding for the delivery of tourism services. And so that's one that certainly there's a lot of apparatus in place and there's a lot of structures to it. And yeah, that's one that, there is opportunity to look at how we wish to administer the MRDT funds as we move forward. However, I would suggest that that may be a challenging process to complete prior to the award of this contract.
And apologies, I wasn't suggesting that. My last comment would just be the question around once a contract is awarded, would any proponent have to report out on how that's going, for example, annually?
So related to the Visitor Information Center contract, traditionally what we've seen in this contract, yes, there is obligations for them to report to council in a public meeting in the community. And so that's one that we anticipate would be a part of that contract award. And similarly for tourism services, there's a reporting obligations within that contract as well.
Thank you to the chair and to the CEO. Thank you.
Okay. Is anybody ready to make a motion? Councillor Patterson.
Oh, sorry. Yes. Sorry, I thought you were just recognizing.
So what are you moving the recommendation?
Yes.
Okay, seconder for that. Councillor Raven seconds. Any further discussion? All those in favor? And that's carried unanimously.
Alrighty, so we were at 14.8. No, yes, 14.8. Report from Mr. Shibley on the Vision Zero BC Grant Council resolutions. BC Grant with a recommendation. Councillor Patterson moving the recommendation and Councillor Ray seconding. Okay. Any discussion? Councillor Ray.
Just seeing the timeline involved, is there any plans from staff to implement any interim safety regulations or safety features once it opens up again after summer or after winter?
Mr. Allen.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Ray, through the mayor. Staff have already placed some concrete barricades at certain locations on the Cycle 16 connector. And that's going to be part of the review, the safety review on the multi-use pathways, is to look at some of those intersections, but also some of the signage in advance of the intersections to make sure that they're compliant and matching the Cycle 16 phase 1 that and future phases to Telqua. Because of the trail essentially isn't open in the winter, so other than just pedestrians, but it's not open, it won't be plowed this winter. So the signage, staff feel that signage can wait until the spring, and we want to make sure any signage that's placed is in compliance.
Go ahead.
Sorry, just at the end of it, it says that the design project wouldn't be completed till summer of 2026. And then the signs will be installed in 2027. That was why I was asking if we were thinking of anything interim.
Mr. Allen.
Yeah, that's correct. The timelines are based on the Vision Zero timings for the grant approval. And yeah, we're hoping that we could install some signage still in the fall or the summer of 2026. I think anything that would be deemed high liability areas, they would have to be installed, but the ancillary signage would be could wait till 2027.
Thank you.
Okay.
I hadn't thought of it till you started, the two of you started talking about this, but with the multi-use path on Princess and the desire to sort of communicate out RBA spends, RBA positive spends, I'm just going to voice that would be a great addition. I know that there's been some discussion at the staff level of how to mark projects that are supported or fully supported with RBA funds. So I'll just say that there's sort of riding in the wind that's if we're building new stuff in terms of signage or communication, it'd be great to include that. I don't need an answer. I'm just planting ideas, but go ahead, Mr. Allen.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Attrell. For the Princess Street multi-use pathway, all of the signage design is included in that project, and it is RBA funded. What this is really addressing is part of the Cycle 16 connector, but actually mostly the older portion of the Fulton multi-use pathway that that was built in 2010 before any active transportation design guidelines for signage was created. So that's what we're primarily addressing.
Thank you. Okay, any last comments? Recommendations on the floor, all in favor? Any opposed? And that's carried. So we're at 14.9, report from Mr. Welsh on the 2025 fees and what? Last time it was me interrupting myself. Okay. We have the report from Mr. Welsh, who is here, and the recommendation. What's your pleasure? Do you want to talk through things first, or if people have questions, we can take them?
I can generally talk through it a little bit first. This is our fees and charges bylaw. It was the expiring at the end of 2025. So I'm kind of looking for council's guidance and how to prepare this generally going forward. These are user fees. So they're kind of generally, there's a couple of ways these are used. Is cost recovery, which is covering a fixed kind of amount of costs to provide a service. So the principles is like beneficiary pays. When a benefit kind of receives a service, they should pay for it. Making sure these are financially sustainable. Fees should support the ongoing maintenance, replacement, and renewal of assets related to the service being provided. Large part of that would be our utility fees for sewer and water system. Transparency and accountability. All fees will be documented in the town's fees and charges bylaw. So it's transparent what we're charging and are accountable, and we charge it consistently. Affordability and accessibility and predictability are kind of the main principles for these ones. So the main kind of couple of these in my fees and principles kind of going through on this one are general increases to recreation fees, 3% mostly across all kind of operations. And a lot of this is to kind of maintain the past practice of a 50% user cost recovery ratio for operations. So a specific point for that would be the arena. Utility fees increased by approximately 3% a year to maintain infrastructure and service levels in reserve contributions. I'm increasing the airport fees a little bit higher than the other two, 4%, in helping support the financial viability of the airport operations and support long-term capital needs. One of the main changes I changed in here is we collect an airport improvement fee currently set at $30 per passenger. In the previous bylaw, this was allocated at 10% or $10. This $30 would go into the infrastructure reserve for this. I've removed specifically that clause because currently the airport is not financially sustainable based on operations alone. Additional funding will be needed to ensure continued operations without some form of subsidy. So giving us a little bit of flexibility to move that money around to support the airport. I've added a 10% late payment charge in the airport consistent with our recreation bylaw, added on unpaid invoices over 60 days old. We have some general other fees and charges there. My general approach to that is 3% generally across the board across for this one. One of the options I'm seeking council's direction on is currently the town of Smithers offers a senior utility fee exemption program. Currently, residents over 65 and old who self-declare they have low income or financial hardships are given 100% exemption for paying their water and sewer fees. Currently, there's only 3 organizations in my research that offer a similar program. The City of Port Coquitlam, along with Nanaimo. Both of these have a verification and proof process, and they give a 50%, not 100% discount. Currently, the town of Smithers budgets $103,000 for this one, with the costs coming in of $109,000 combined for giving this discount out, which is a 13% year-over-year increase. I'm looking for council's direction on this one, if they would like to continue this program, or at least provide direction on what defines financial hardship and how we'd like to administer this program. Generally across the board on that one, my fees and principles are out, but I'm looking for some direction from council on that one specific issue, along with any general guidance and how fees and charges should be prepared for 2025, 6 to 2029.
Thanks, Mr. Welsh. Council, anyone want to start? Councilor Leonard.
I'm generally in agreement with pretty much everything you've outlined. Appreciate the 3% increase and for the airport. So yeah, I'm in agreement with most of it, with the exception of seniors that are experiencing hardship. I don't think we should totally do away with that. You know, the GIS funding is, if you're receiving that, you're really low income. And so I would support keeping it in place, even at the 100%, if they can show proof of that supplement. Just for my fellow counselors' knowledge, you start receiving GIS if you make a single person, if you make less than $22,000 a year. So you think about affordability and having to, you know, live as a senior. I think it's the least we can do for our elderly population.
Thanks, Councillor Leonard. Councillor Raven.
I agree with Councillor Leonard. That's what I had written down as well. What we hear again and again is how a lot of our seniors may have a house that may be high value, but they don't have the money to pay for the upkeep and utilities and all of that. So I would support keeping it at 100% with a proof of eligibility. One question I did have is, I know in our recreation fees is we're always looking to get 50% user cost recovery. And I just wanted to ask if we're actually at that 50%. I believe I asked a couple years ago and we weren't quite there yet, or it depended on the recreation.
Mr. Welsh.
In my budget preparations, sorry, Councillor Raven, I didn't prepare that report. We are along those guidelines when I was reviewing. in maintaining that kind of principle in 2024 and 2025 to date have came across in a roughly approximately the 50% range.
Music to my
I would
ears.
like to
Awesome.
also just, I would also just like to point out in your regards to seniors and the ability to pay proper tax, BC does offer a property tax deferment program, allowing seniors over 65 who have a principal residence the ability to defer in full the property tax with the exception of utility fees. So it is one specific principle available to that specific group, not available to others. I generally agree with paying proper user fees for a system. In spreading this across, favoring a certain group at the expense of others, I don't think it's equitable in applying the principle of user pays for a utility system in regards to asset maintenance too. Council has also eliminated the property tax exemption, permissive tax exemption for a lot of nonprofits in regards to asset management and maintenance going forward. So this is kind of a similar concept in applying similar application.
Thanks, Mr. Welsh. Councillor Raven, did you have anything else you wanted to add?
Nope, good on my end.
Okay. This side of the ship, Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, Mayor Atchell. Just a quick question through to Mr. Walsh. We don't require proof of low income or financial hardship at this time?
A self-declaration form is prepared and signed by the applicant with no verifiable proof requiring, relying fully on self-declaration with no proper definition of financial hardship provided. Currently, other organizations require a notice of assessment of proof to ensure the GIS levels are met, and the actual and have proper definitions of what is eligible to be claimed by this one. One of my concerns about administering that program is the confidentiality and privacy around collecting notice of assessments from taxpayers.
Follow up, if I may, Your Worship. So just would a motion be specifically required under the senior utility fee exemption program this evening?
Mr. Dewar.
Certainly if a motion was on the floor, I think that would help.
And maybe before you make one, in case you're going there, Councillor Patterson, we'll just go around. Okay. And then just for clarity back to Mr. Welsh, as yes, you're looking for general feedback, although I mean, motions are always in order. So, but for now, we could give some general feedback as well. And then, so I'm going to keep looking back to you to see if I'm misspeaking. And then when we see the budget, if it's not meeting, if we think it's different than the feedback provided, we'll have another opportunity to look at it.
We'll have the operation budgets presented and we'll have the final fees and charges eventually brought forward to council for adoption.
And I only said that by means this isn't our last kick at it. So the motion's fine to present when you're ready, or I'll just finish to go around the table. And then if we see something when we see the budget, we still have every opportunity to make changes at that point too.
If I may, Your Worship, just hearing that clarification, thank you. I won't prepare anything. I'll just wait, but just to say that I support the narrative that we're having around providing proof. Thank you.
Okay. And we'll see when we go around the table if how folks are feeling. Councillor Ray.
So first off, on general principles, I think 3% across the boards look good. User recovery, we used to do it per thing, and it was just pretty much, we found out what the recovery was already and said, let's keep it that way. But I think 50% is a good overall. But one thing I did want to point out is that we do have differing fees for adults and youth. And I would like to keep that in place. So we're not recovering 50, we're not bumping up the youth rate to get to that any more than we are the adult rate. With the seniors water and sewer exemption, we haven't reached peak senior population based on our demographics. So this is only going to cost us more every year. And who does it cost? It costs people that can't afford to get into housing. I certainly feel for a senior that's below that income threshold for sure. But how many seniors making that income or not making that income threshold are living in a rental and therefore subsidizing people that own their homes? So basically the youth youth, younger people than 65, I guess, that are buying homes. It's part of what goes to affordability. And I think the other thing is that we have to build a water treatment plant soon. And it really doesn't make sense to be, we're going to need more than that. I'm a little concerned that we're only raising 3%, but I defer to your expertise on that, because we're going to have to take care of that after we build it as well. And it's going to be an additional expense. There's going to be probably pipes going to the ground that need to be taken care of. And so I think that we should at least look at how we would maybe support really low income seniors, but the self-reporting came in because we were told that it was too much onus on staff. So, I mean, if it's as simple as showing a notice of assessment, I don't even know if we would have to, we could just empower our staff keep secrets. We trust them with that. And if all it is, the person that's receiving the tax notice and the actual deferment has seen it, we don't have to keep it on record. We can just have somebody say, yes, I do confirm that this person has income less than such and such. Although that we're going to have to make that on household income if we do it. So it's going to be a bit of a discussion. When we tried to do it before, we obviously got a lot of backlash from seniors. And, if we phase it out, I'm not that far away from being a senior. So I actually, I get both sides of it, but, seeing how young people are having trouble affording the mortgages that they have, and then houses are way more expensive than they used to, which affects everybody. But I think we really ought to look at some just, I guess, way of making sure that we're only supporting those seniors that really need it. Because right now, I could turn 65 and go, that's $1,000 in my pocket, and just say I can't afford it. I'm not saying that people do that, but I would imagine that not everybody that claims it is below that income threshold. So I think we should at least have it in budget discussions. We can hear from the public because it's out in the public now if we choose to move that way. And we've got plenty of time, so it's not like a surprise. The progressive tax exemption, we gave notice so that it wasn't happening that year. So there's ways to make this as painless as possible. But I think that given the expenditures that we have coming up and the struggles of younger folks as well, I think it bears looking at.
Thanks, Councillor Ray. Okay, well, maybe I'll throw my comments here and I'll try to go in order because I have a few specific things. So I think generally, I can support the direction. I like the 3% or the 4% to me, I did write down like, why not 2%? So I'm assuming that the 3% is based on a projection of income that you think is sensible and more than CPI. But as we talk about affordability, like 2% or 2.5% is easier on people than 3%, but generally I can support where you're going. I am concerned about the airport. And perhaps this is one that's just going to take future conversations. So for the purpose of moving forward tonight, I can accept that. I think I'm interested in a conversation on the airport, and we're going to have one about how we are going to, ensure that the airport is sustainable over time. Had the pleasure of joining our airport manager on a call with another airline, and just had the conversation about what the viability of our airport is, what are our opportunities. And I think there are going to be things that we have to really think about here. In my view, the airport is essential, critical, and so it may be that we have to talk about it separately. And I'm also aware budgets can be amended, so we can go down the road, and if we have a future idea that requires change, that's not impossible. But just saying that I think we have to be very focused. One of the million things we have to be focused on, but one of them is the airport. In terms of seniors, I think I can get my head around the, some sort of proof. And I did talk to Mr. Welsh about this. I was compelled by a previous finance officer who gave us the information that this was a hard one for people to do, that it was hard to self-declare at the table, and that it was the perspective of that individual that it wasn't abused. I think over time, it seems like perhaps that's changing. It's hard for people to say, I don't have enough money. Like, that's a hard thing to do. So I think we need to be aware of that too. And, how we manage the money is really up to us. Mr. Welsh has provided some guiding principles here, but it won't be the first time I've said all we do is provide service, and we try to figure out how we pay for the service. We do some of it through taxes. We do some of it through fee for service, or, the fees and charges. We mix it up. And so it's up to us how we do that. And so if we feel that providing some sort of a subsidy to seniors is the correct thing to do, we will figure out how. So whether it's some sort of proof of financial hardship at the counter or something else, we can figure this part out. It is actually up to us on how we provide services, because that's actually all we do. That's all we are. We're just a service provision outfit. That's what we do. And we figure out how to pay for it. We make a decision that recreation is at 50%. It could be at 40, it could be at 60. We just choose. So we could do the same with seniors. So I'm on the fence there. And then I have a couple of specifics, but I don't know if we want to go through the general principles before I dive into some of the pages. Okay, I'm not seeing anyone, so I'm going into my specifics then. And I'm just going to point out, because Mr. Dewar showed me that Councillor Patterson on page 133 of 325 is the alternate option where we could put in the specifics if you want to when we're done this conversation. It's an alternate motion that would support what we were talking about earlier, just before I forget. So I wanted to just delve into the criminal record check fees. And Mr. Dewar has explained it to me before, and I just want to make sure I got it straight this time. So what's in the fee for service or the fees and charges bylaw now? Could you just tell me, explain it to me, even though I've highlighted all the lines? What will a person volunteering have to pay when they go to get their criminal record check?
And I'll let the Director of Finance, do you want to speak to what they will have to pay, and I can provide backstory if it's
Sure,
desired?
that's fine. Yeah, thank you.
No worries. I reviewed this bylaw with the administrative staff of the RCMP also to make sure the bylaw was relevant and up to date. We did go through the various criminal record checks. So a criminal record check without fingerprints for a volunteer will be done at no charge. Criminal record check with fingerprints was the additional charge is $25, which is the only charge we're passing on to volunteers. And same with certificates, visa applicants with fingerprints or anything like that, a $25 incremental charge. And those are mostly for the fingerprints charge are for people working with high risk individuals. So it requires an extra task, time, and resources RCMP members. So we believe the fee is warranted. But a normal criminal record check without fingerprints is free for not-for-profiteers, provided that person requesting the service must provide a letter, name and address of the organization, name, reason for the check, and statement you would not be paid for your work.
I'm putting my hand up for myself now. That's funny. So I just tried to follow you through that. So I'm under page 2 of 4, 143.25, where I see the fees. And you said $25, and I don't see that piece. So that's where I'm stuck here. So under it's item 6, protective services fees.
Scroll down a little bit. Scroll down a little bit, you'll see criminal record search without fingerprints on the left-hand side. Not-for-profit, volunteer, no charge. I'm looking at the HTML version, so I may see a different bit of page. You have, but yes, volunteers will not be charged for a normal criminal record check.
It is $50 stated in the agenda, so that's something that we will correct from administrative level.
Yeah.
The intention was to have it as $25. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Okay, that helps because I did see the 50s. So criminal records search with fingerprints for a not-for-profit volunteer, where I see 50, it should say 25.
Correct. Prior details, we may have had that not-for-profit with fingerprints was $50. I have revised that now to $25.
Okay, thank you for the clarity.
Sorry, Your Worship.
it feels like I had one other little. Oh, no, that had to do with seniors as well. Okay, that's helpful. I think that's my detail. Okay,
Sorry, one more point of
Yep.
correction, because presently it is listed at $50, but the proposal for the fees and charges as we move forward would be to bring it back to the $25 mark. Is that a correct statement, Ken, or Mr. Welsh?
Mr. Dewar, that is a correct statement. I believe there was some administration issues around providing that charge in the past, and I've worked with administrative services and the RCMP staff, and that has been corrected and standardized going forward in the proposed 2026 fees and charges bylaw.
okay, thank you for that. Anything else for council? Any little rabbit holes? Councilor Ray?
Just about separating out or not separating out the airport improvement fee anymore. So historically, it was $10 less than it is now. The $10 was added specifically so that the airport users were paying the debt on the airport, which is why it was separated out. Because we did that, we haven't looked at increasing the $25 part to pay for infrastructure and all that. But I recognize, I remember saying, oh, yeah, we've got more things to worry about if that ever gets to be a problem. And then COVID hit. So I recognize that that's what's happened here. But it'd just be interesting. I just want to make sure that as much as possible, at least the debt on the airport is still paid for by the users. If we have to infuse capital and stuff, I see that a little different, but for my own integrity, I guess I want to make sure that, promise isn't maybe quite the right word, but I was, that was part of how, in my mind, we were able to sell doing all that and borrowing that kind of money, was that the airport users would still be at least paying the debt.
Thanks, Councilor Ray. I do remember. I would also say, I think circumstances have changed so extraordinarily when it comes to airports. And I think the one kind of I'm willing to hold is I know that we're going to have an opportunity to talk about the airport. So for now, I think I'm just flagging it. It's something that I'm worried about. But until we actually have a chance to talk about it and see how we might support the airport going forward with, all of us and the information that's coming, for now, I'm just willing to I don't have anything to offer that's different other than just saying, I think it's worthy of its own conversation. And I know we're going to have one. So. Okay. So to allow Mr. Welsh to go forward and thinking he's on firm ground as he does this, sorry, I just have to get back to the beginning. So it's either go forward as we've got it here, or do we want to have that one change? And I've actually forgotten which one it was, where Councillor Patterson, you were thinking about giving some different direction. You're good for now? Okay. Seniors. Councillor Ray.
So, well, I appreciate the approach, and I think we should take it, as I've argued. I do think that maybe just given that, taxes are due in 7 or 8 months again, that maybe we should provide some kind of clarity, even just for the budget, and remind the public that we expect that to be paid out this year and any changes would take place afterwards. I just, because if we commit to it, where do you put that budget line at? Do we still put it at 100,000? Do we put it at 50,000? Like, I guess we'd have to get that in the budget, but I'm not
Mr.
sure if
Welch.
I'm making sense there.
Just looking for general guidance and staff's approach to this one, and it kind of sees like I should be reviewing this option a little bit and bring a potential kind of options for how to kind of manage this going forward. It's a key item for discussion. A lot of these, including the airport, I was just looking for council's opinion on, because as we said, it's fees and charges principle, and looking for your input and how to go about this going forward. So I appreciate the discussion. I think we have a resolution that something along the lines of reviewing this and bringing back an option to council how to phase this in. I think is the direction I kind of see around the table here.
Okay, and so do you want that actually in a form of a motion, or are you good with just direction from the discussion taken? That's always weak to ask you that, but
I'm content with the, and if you guys are fine with me doing that, I'm content with the discussion around here, and I think I know how to approach this going forward. And if you're around council, I know really come around the office, I'm normally pretty chatty about things, so.
okay. Council's okay with all that? Okay. Alrighty. Then we're just moving forward without a motion. Okay, 1410, the report from Mr. Lawrence on the snow dump relocation with recommendations. If someone wants to move it, or Mr. Lawrence, is there anything you wanted to add before we go forward? Okay, Council Ray, saw your hand.
I'll move.
All the bullets? Okay, is there a seconder? Councillor Patterson seconds. Discussion. Councillor Ray.
Actually, sorry, I did have a question and I think I know the answer. Just we can't purchase the equipment with RBA money. That's right.
Yes, it wouldn't be appropriate to purchase with RBA.
I guess the thing I wanted to point out is, you know, if there is anybody listening, we all know around the table, but this is a direct result of us selling or signing over the land for long-term care facilities. So there is a cost to taxpayers in this case. I think council all decided that that was worth the long, so we knew this was coming. I want to thank the staff for their works, for their work on this, and you know, it was really important to me, and I'm glad that you did it to make sure that this is not going to affect our aquifer at all. So thank you for that.
Thanks, Councillor Ray. Mr. Welsh, it looked like you wanted to say something, so no, you're okay. Okay, any other council? Alrighty, let's vote. All in favor? Any opposed? And that's carried. Thank you. 1411 from Ms. Chartrand, banner and gateway sign request with a recommendation. Councillor Patterson's moving. Seconder, Councillor Ray seconds. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed, and that's carried. And we have in the 15th then from Ms. Westberg, just the notification on staff vacancies as we asked to be informed. Long list of people joining as well, so that's nice to see. If there's any questions, otherwise 215-2 from the survey results from Ms. LeBlanc. Yep, Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, Worship. Just a question through to staff. I was really interested to see on page 236 of 325, the number of respondents recognizing our population in comparison, but specific to this survey. I was surprised the number of respondents who wished to see the number of services reduced to offset taxation. And I couldn't help but think, when would a municipality have those types of conversations? So for example, is that something that would occur through a committee of the whole and strategic priorities?
I think that's something that certainly would occur or could occur at that level, but I would suggest that maybe, you know, a general statement from the public saying reduce level or some services, would have to gather more information in terms of what we'd be looking at, but certainly that would be something. And I mean, ideally that would be something for, as we look at a upcoming election and such for a new council term, to really identify the level of services they're looking to establish.
Thank you, Worship. I just wanted to say thank you through to staff. It was difficult to try to understand how that might occur while you're also doing a budgeting process. So I appreciate your patience and taking the time to describe that, because I couldn't imagine how you would do both concurrently, I guess.
And I guess with that, if council had certain services that they do think should be decreased to save money for the taxpayers, certainly that is something that there's always opportunity through that budget process to suggest reducing levels of service to reduce costs of those services.
Did you have your hand up as well? Okay, Counselor Raven and then Counselor Ray and then Counselor Leonard.
No worries. I just wanted to do a bit of a brief comment on the services that people wanted to see reduced, which was environmental, general government, and arts and culture came out on top for that. And I was actually a bit confused by the term general government, to be honest. So could somebody give me an example of what general government is?
Mr. Schroeder.
It's me, quite literally. Corporate services, legislative services, reception services, those types of services fall under the general government category, in addition to finance services, I believe.
Awesome. Thank you so much for the clarification. Though I don't support getting rid of our finance, that would make budget very difficult.
Appreciated, Councillor Raven.
Counselor Ray.
So a couple comments. I found it interesting that only the people that wanted to cut services asked that question, answered that question. So if you were to tell the general community, hey, we're cutting services, what should we cut? Then everybody would answer, and it might be a different answer. I think it's good information though, for sure. But, I know that, Councillor Raven asked, a lot of the services that our staff provides are mandated by other levels of government. And maybe people don't know that. And so it's interesting when something's on a survey. The other comment I wanted to make was, we did go out to the public on some very specific things. Actually, a couple of them were things they wanted more of, and a couple of things were they wanted less of. And we outlined how much it was going to cost to add services. Those people didn't want the services added anymore. The people that wanted to cut services, we outlined what would happen if we cut the services, and they didn't want the services cut anymore. I'm not saying that's maybe still valid, but it is interesting to see where people think, but without going out and actually doing face-to-face. This is really kind of, maybe if we feel that there's a movement that people do want to see services cut, and we could always consult for the next budget. I know there's an election in between there, but I would think that the next council would probably want to know if we felt that it was important to have that conversation, that they would be looking at the results. The one other comment I was going to ask is if the actual comments could be shared with council. I would find that interesting, unless I totally missed them in there.
I think it's just being noted. Okay. Any other, okay, who else did I have? Counselor Leonard.
Yeah, I was just going to echo the same thought. Appreciate the information. Noticed, reduction in government services was sort of high on the list. And, for me, it's more of a food for thought when we're all going through these budget deliberations. I mean, it clearly speaks to affordability or the lack thereof in our community. And it's just, I think it's worthwhile as counselors to keep that in mind when we're going through budget.
Thanks, Councillor Leonard. Yeah, I do think there's something in here, and some of it might be how we think about engagement going forward. That there's a specificity in here that we're missing, unless there's something in those comments that, how do we share, and this was complicated, but how do we share with folks, what does general government mean? So what do folks expect for basic service from the town? And, the speed of which people pick up phones, the speed of which, calls are returned, all of those things require people. They require people to do them. And coupled with what Mr. Dewar said on things, I think, or maybe it was Councillor, the things that we will deliver, that we are mandated to deliver by another order of government, that we'll just do that because we have to, and the legislation gets more complex, and it's harder to convey that to residents in terms that are understandable because it's overwhelming. It's overwhelming when you sit here to try to understand some of the things that we're required to do and the complexity of the legislation around it. And we have a team of people who are highly trained and skilled delivering the services. And, you know, how do I say this well, but because I don't understand it, doesn't mean it doesn't have value. And I think that's one of our challenges or opportunities, is to somehow convey to the people that we are providing service to, what is the service? Sometimes it's fussy. It just is fussy. You know, I'm looking to this side of the table and we've got a couple of staff members, one who's in charge of an airport. It's a bit fussy. And then the works and ops, like that's water and sewer and roads and sidewalks and all of those things, complex systems that we expect to deliver good service on time all the time. And when we just bundle them up like that, they're just words. And it seems like we probably ought to be able to cut something. But how do we convey to the people who are receiving service that these are really valuable services? And the fact that you don't notice them most of the time means they're being delivered well. So we have a story to tell. The next time we do a survey, there, you know, our opportunity is to attach something to the survey. Years ago, before I was on council, council did those, I can't remember what they call them, like Let's Talks, you know, out in the community where a lot of information was available. I'm sure they were hard work to do, but at those meetings, people were able to dig deep into services, and the table I was sitting at didn't ask for any cuts once they understood what the service was. So all I'm saying is that there is something in here about the opportunity we have to explain the good work that's done, and for council to stand there with staff who are experts in delivering really good service, and then ask people out of that, so what things don't you want once you're truly informed about what's delivered? And there may be things that are worth considering at that point, but otherwise I think it's easy to see something like a term general government and say, well, that's a bit mystical. We could probably cut that some without knowing what it means. So I don't mean to diminish how people feel. I think Councillor Leonard is right. People feel a bit strained and we want to respect that. But just cutting without understanding what we're doing actually doesn't serve people well either, because then we'll just get the complaints about the service isn't being delivered fast enough or to a high enough service. It's I'm telling you all what you know, it's complex, but there's an opportunity for us in how we speak and try to get information from the residents, you know, the next time we tackle something like this. So I definitely appreciate getting the information. Lots to think about. Okay, thanks for letting me go on. And next up, we have the municipal markers, 15.3 and 15.4. If there's any comments, questions. I wish Ms. LeBlanc was here. I was noticing all the social media stuff and something happened in May. It sort of stands out. May was a busy month. And then just to Mr. Allen, it's sort of looking like it's not our busiest year, but it's been a busy year for building permits and activity. That's how it's looking to me. Feeling that way to you? Okay. Those were the things I noticed. So anything from, and the airport, I did notice the airport numbers, which is what we've been talking about. So opportunity going forward. Okay, then I think we're up to correspondence, the 18s. If there's something you would like to talk about, just give me the number. Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, Mayor Atchell, just 18.2.
18.2, any other numbers? Okay, let's go to 18.2, Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, Mayor Atchell. Just a question through to staff, just to jog my memory. We had chatted a little bit about general concerns around transportation safety. And I believe, I'm hoping you can correct me if I'm wrong, there was two streams. One, we talked about information coming back to council, I believe, for further discussion. And then I believe the second part was that there was a conference that was being held in October where specialists around sort of traffic and pedestrian safety were meeting to discuss some of these issues. And I was just wondering if information would be coming back or if I got all of that incorrect.
Mr. Dewar.
We would have to check resolutions to confirm.
Sounds good. Thank you so much.
Okay, I don't remember either. I remember parts of the conversation, but no outcome. Okay, one thing I did think with this letter, though, in case it didn't go there, is that we could forward this off to Ministry of Transport, excuse me, Mott. Just so that they have a copy as well. Do you want a motion for that, or can we just do that? We can just do it.
I think we can just do that.
You'd prefer a motion, Mr. Schroeder? You always do.
Generally, yes.
Okay. I'm happy to move that we forward this to our local Ministry of Transportation office if someone will second. Councillor Patterson seconds. All in favor? Oh, Councillor Ray, did you have a question? Sorry.
No, it was just, I wanted to highlight something, we've had these concerns brought to us before, but something that I had never considered is the timing of the yellow lights. That it is really very quick. And, they're one of the couple of our intersections do have lights that say, hey, the light's about to turn yellow, and people still choose to run through that. But when you do hit a yellow light and it's too late to stop, you're generally the back of your vehicles and exiting the intersection when the light's red. So I think that's a really good point that she's made here.
Thanks, Councillor Ray. I mean, I think that's part of why I wanted to send it there. And I think in the years that I've been on council, the ministry was responsive to some specific asks we had. I don't have one, but I just thought this has come to us and I don't know if it's gone to them. So I just thought they should be aware. That's all. Okay, all in favor? Any opposed? And that's carried. Okay, I'm just flipping through my own notes now. So I did have a note on 18.8, sorry. Mostly because I didn't actually fully get the narrative. And so this is the one about the accident and right turn only, because these are our roads now that are being discussed. So I'm just raising it in case there was anything in here for our staff that seemed a bit out of the ordinary or things you've seen before. My only note here was just to raise it for staff. So I'm content I can see you looking at it now. If there's anything in there that raises concern for you, I just wanted to point it out because I didn't quite follow the narrative on what's actually wrong there. Mr. Allen.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Attrell. I can speak a little bit to this. This is an ongoing concern, traffic safety over by the high school. It's mostly where 3rd Avenue meets Montreal Street, and then we have the access to the high school and then the access to the school board office. It's very congested. And there has been some discussion about possibly changing the whole loop to a one-way. And I think, yeah, staff have read this letter, and I think it might warrant a new discussion with the school district about that possibility. It would solve a lot of the concerns and these safety concerns, and especially if there are incidents happening. We haven't been made aware of these accidents or incidents, but it is something we do work with the RCMP on as well. So we'll consider looking into this if we have time in the engineering division in development services.
Okay, and the only thing I'd add is if there's something that you need from us to help with the conversation, if the time comes, just let us know. Councillor Ray.
The real problem there is actually going into the school. If you don't signal that you're going into the school, people are still expecting you to go straight into the school. And when they're coming out, they're expecting you to go. So I haven't seen any accidents, but I've seen how people behave. The other problem is that people don't use the drop-off area properly. They still choose to drop people off right at the end of the school driveway, and that creates a bit of a dangerous situation. But it's not my job to solve traffic problems. But part of the problem is it's fairly well designed. People just aren't really following it. So that is a bit of a concern, and hopefully staff and school staff can work something out.
Thanks, Counselor Ray. Okay, thanks for humoring me in that. And I think that was our last item unless I've missed something. Then is it a motion to adjourn? Recess. A motion to recess, please. Counselor Patterson, Counselor Ray. All in favor? We are recessed. Take a few minutes and then we'll reconvene for closed. So let me be more specific. It's 8:34, take 6 minutes.
Counselor Raven, would you please rejoin the other Zoom link that we'd sent you, just so that we can fully shut this down? Thank you very much.